My name is William Thomas, and I'm here to talk to you about the power of this mighty little green ribbon you'll see on my lapel here. Now, I work at a relatively sizable local law firm down the road, some of you might have heard, called DLA Piper. And straight off the bat, I will answer two burning questions that I hear echoing around the room already. Question one, no, I am not a lawyer. And despite working at DLA, I actually wear a couple of very different hats. The first, I'm a legal project manager, and if you don't know what that means, which most don't, it means I bring the order to the phrase law and order. And I do that in some of our more complex and high-value cases, along with my colleague here. The other hat that I wear, which is relevant to this evening, is I am head of the Mental Health and Wellbeing Committee at the London office. Question two. Yes, the Movember Mo. I know. It's an occupational hazard for someone that is the head of a mental health and wellbeing committee in November. Now I'm going to invite a little audience participation, if I may, so please do be honest, be brave. It's not going to be too embarrassing. Could you please just raise your hand if you have ever at work felt stressed or anxious? Wow. If you look around the room, that is almost every single hand in this room. And that is a really interesting one because it tells us two stories, really, of the data on mental health in the workplace. And I'll tell you both. The first is tried and proven from data from a Deloitte white paper published earlier this year, showed that over half of the sick leave, about 54% of sick leave taken in the UK, is a result of anxiety, stress, and depression, which should be a pretty staggering statistic for all of the myriad employers that will be here in this room. And the second is one that is true for each and every one of us, and it's that we all have our own mental health journey. It's totally unique to us, it's utterly subjective, and it's completely invisible to everyone else in our workplace. So, reducing stigma around that mental health journey is actually why I'm here, because it's the goal and the intention of the This Is Me campaign, run by the Lord Mayor's Appeal, which I relaunched in my workplace at DLA during Mental Health Awareness Week in May of this year, and represented by this mighty little green ribbon on my lapel. And that week in May, we ran 5 events across 5 days, and those events were supported and sponsored by 3 of the most senior figures in our firm, so you have no excuse, you can get senior buy-in. And those 3 people were the Global Co-Chair, John Hayes, the Global Co-CEO, who is here this evening, Simon Levine, and a very special senior partner at the firm, the 693rd Lord Mayor of London, Vincent Keaveney. And together, we impacted over 400 colleagues across those 5 events through the programme of impactful events that we did, supported by the Lord Mayor's Appeal. And all those who attended those events left wearing a green ribbon. I ensured that, as you can tell. And this little ribbon kind of symbolises the This Is Me campaign, and it really also symbolises one of the 3 tools that the This Is Me campaign promotes. And I want to talk a little bit about those. The first, the ribbon, is to visually break down the stigma around mental health. When you wear it, you show your colleagues you're an ally. You show them that you're willing to talk about mental health and that you're someone that has their back when it gets tough. And during that week in May, we also saw the other 2 tools, one of which bore really beautiful fruit, and that's the power of storytelling. During a webinar that I set up and ran, which was hosted by the Global Co-Chair, John, no pressure, and a real-life monk I brought in conversation on mental health, John shared his own personal experiences, ad-lib, totally unprompted, about his challenges in his incredibly senior role in the 3rd biggest law firm in the world and how he responds to those alongside his own personal and family life. And the magic of that is that I heard reverberating around the office the week after so many stories of people talking about that and their own. And that's the story, the power of storytelling. Which takes me on to the third, excuse me. And that 3rd and final tool promoted by This Is Me are the practical tools that you can give your colleagues to support their well-being and their mental health, and have a slightly closer to home story about that from my workplace. So following another webinar that we ran with one of our partners earlier last month, and that was for World Mental Health Day in October, the webinar focused on feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and burnout at work. And a colleague in my team that I see most days told me that they cried during that webinar because when the presenters talked about the experiences of burnout and overwhelm, they hadn't really understood what they'd been going through, but they related deeply to it, as I'm sure many people in this room would as well. So I sat and exchanged with my colleague when they told me about it. I shared the growing list and inventory of tools that we have, practical tools that they can use to help support their mental health and well-being, and many of which, for transparency, I use myself on a weekly basis. And just last week, I got some really wonderful news that the person that shared with me and my team told me they'd found someone to talk to regularly about their mental health, and that they'd created another tool for their well-being, which, as for many of us, is totally unique to who we are. And they started on payday last month, their monthly ritual of getting a massage on payday. Sounds pretty good. Let's face it, we all have our own tools to combat mental health, and sometimes people just need to be shown some. Mine, when presented with the opportunity of talking to a room full of the Lord Mayor's most distinguished guests, is to sit and eat Toblerone while writing this speech last night with my housemate's cat on my lap. But this is the reality, and according to Mental Health First Aid England, more than 70% of leaders in your businesses have struggled to implement and support their colleagues' mental health. And that's because of their workload, could have been the culture at your workplace, it could have been the policies that you have there. But it all starts at the top. And this is where This Is Me can help. Because it can help to equip you as business and thought leaders to help support your people by bringing sincerely impactful tools to your businesses to empower your people to support each other together head on. So speak to one of the Lord Mayor's Appeal team today. You can sign your business up to This Is Me, because those resources have made a huge cultural impact at DLA Piper. And on behalf of DLA, I'd like to thank the Lord Mayor's Appeal for all the support that you've given us in implementing those, and it was just so easy. So there really is no excuse. I'd also like to thank Simon for his unwavering support of my somewhat left field campaigns, including coming along today to a mustache-themed cupcake sale where he posed with a stick-on mustache and bought a cupcake. And lastly, I would like to thank my team, who are represented here today by my colleague, Chloe. Thank you for your unwavering support of me since I started my job at DLA last year to the day today. And taking up this role at DLA, I also took up the role on the committee in February, initiated a relatively ambitious program of events to support my colleagues, and all the while running a handful, one of which we do together, of multi-million-dollar programs. So I'm sincerely grateful to you. Thank you, because your unwavering, honest, and essential support to me has helped me do my job and stay in it. So let's erase the stigma around mental health in the workplace. Let's stand with our colleagues. Let's empower them with the tools that they need. And let's tell honest and meaningful stories to make a big change in your workplace today. Thank you.